Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I am Ron Luce. I am joined by the Juice Man himself. Juice,
So,
this game was something, to say the least, tonight. A brutal loss. Cubs leading 8-0 in the sixth inning. They lose 9-8 to the Padres. Baseball aside, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, man. I'm actually good with the baseball, too. I think we're already getting one comment in here from Jeremiah. I think at the end of the day, it's not a bad move all the way around, except for Quas, if you really look at it. But
Yeah.
I don't know, this one, yeah, you blew an 8-run lead and you thought that, you were marking one in the win column and things were going great. But this one feels now like almost two losses because you've now depleted the bullpen for tomorrow in a spot where you don't have Justin Steele. It's probably going to be Ben Brown for most of it, which is fine if he gives you what he gave you the other night. But it's a lot to ask from a guy making his, second long start, I would say. I mean, they're probably going to use an opener. It'd probably be somebody like Drew Smiley, but I don't know. We'll see. I have an interesting take on this one, but I'll let you preview the show a little bit and tell the audience what happened in the game.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So things were humming for the Cubbies. Things were looking up. Things were looking good. Top of the second inning, the Cubs were able to add four. Ian Happ singled. Cody Bellinger singled. Each of those singles scored a pair. They continued to add on Bellinger another RBI via a sac fly a little bit later in the game, a Morel double, and then a Dansby Swanson triple gave them all 8 runs by the top of the fourth inning. Cubs were rolling. Cubs were cruising. And things were looking up. And a guy I think we got to give a lot of credit to tonight, Juice. You mentioned the good, right, of this baseball game. Javier Assad was part of the good of this baseball game. 5+ strong innings of baseball, just the 3 hits, the 2 earned runs on the home run by Cronenworth, which ultimately got things started for the Padres. But he walked 3, but 7 Ks. Just an overall really solid night from Assad. You have to be proud of the work he did, especially with the turnaround, the late game ending late on Sunday when it was supposed to be a getaway day. They're able to come back around, and he's able to put on an absolute performance. And then things went south. You mentioned it. Jose Quas comes in, gives up 4 runs, 2 of which were earned in just a third of an inning. Little ultimately comes in, gives up an earned run. Neris ends up giving up an earned run. And then obviously Alzolay ultimately gets the loss and the blown save. This is his second blown save already of the season, thanks to the late Tatis home run that gave the Padres not only the lead, but ultimately the win in this one. As Jeremiah said here, I think that's got to be the mindset is let's just get 2 out of 3 and try and rebound after a night like tonight. But I think this is how a lot of people are feeling tonight. I wanted to share this comment here from Filmmaker 12. He says, what the fucking hell is that? An absolute disgusting loss. Hope Tom and Jed were watching. No faith in the pen. And Juice, so I had this thought coming in, and I want to just get your take on it because I know you have a positive spin that's probably going to bring my spirits up, and I think I need it right now as well. I asked you, literally, you and I were on the microphone 5 days ago, 6 days ago, give or take, and I asked you about the bullpen. I said, how do you feel about the bullpen? And you said, hey, it's early, give it 3 weeks, and then we can panic if we don't know what's going on. My panic meter went up a little bit tonight with the bullpen. And it's not so much Little. I think Little was fine. I think Neris was fine. Again, if those guys are only getting tagged for 1 run apiece and they have an 8-run lead, you're not as concerned. But a guy like Jose Quas, there's a couple guys I think in this bullpen right now that if I see them coming into the game, I go, okay, well, let's just hope they get a quick 1, 2, 3 and we're done with it. Because otherwise, you get into situations like this where these guys can't just get the job done at the end of the day. I think there's a couple guys in the pen. Almonte, I think, is one of them. I think a lot of people share in that sentiment. And I think we're seeing it now with a guy like Jose Quas. As you always say, Juice, he knows where the bodies are buried. So how should Cubs fans feel right now about some of these bullpen spots? And do you think there's an answer right now? Because I have an answer to this too, but I want to hear from you first. Do you think there's an answer right now in terms of somebody that can come up and make a big difference in this bullpen for one of those 2 names?
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to talk about all the same names back and forth. There's a plethora of arms in Iowa that they can, sub in Quas or sub out Quas for and bring someone else in. But I don't know. I often like to use these games as a way to educate on what happens earlier on in the game will always influence what happens later. And we talk about Javier Assad, and he had a great night. But there comes a point where I think the easy fix for this is some of the starters going a little deeper into games than the fifth inning.
Yep.
It's asking a lot from this bullpen, which they had one large piece that they added in the offseason, and that's Hector Neris. Other than that, they're betting on a lot of the same names from the recent run, and a guy like Yency Almonte, who is a project in a lot of ways. But I think the easy fix for the short term is expecting our starters to go a little deeper. Let's be more efficient in the first, second, and third innings. I feel like Cubs starters in general have had long first and second innings all season. And I know it's only 10 games and it's a small sample size, but getting more efficient outs and getting into that sixth, I think, for this team is huge. And it sets up so much easier for a manager. It's a disgusting loss, don't get me wrong, but my positive spin on it is sometimes it takes a loss like this to kick the ass of the people who make the decisions of, hey, listen, like there's some glitches in this roster that can be solved sooner rather than later. There's no reason to sit and wait because we saw what happens when you do that. You could look up and look at this month and go, you're 500, and some of this, games that were played coming into May, you have the same kind of run as you had last year, where May is just a cluster and you lose a lot of games. And now you're looking at, you're chasing that NL Central division, which if you look today, every team's over 500. Yeah. Every team's playing well. So it's not maybe that, doormat of a league that we thought it was going to be. Maybe it's a little better than that. It's early, but I don't know. The way I took tonight's loss was it's just a way for all of us to look at it as a group and say, yeah, you need to get deeper into games. But on the other side of it is like in an 8-run lead, if you have a guy like Jose Quas out there who can't get 3 outs, like that's like he doesn't belong. And it doesn't mean that you have to DFA him. I saw a lot of DFA. He has options. Send him down. Let him try to figure it out in Iowa. If it doesn't work down there, no big deal. But I don't know. I look at this game and I'm like, yeah, it sucks. And tomorrow's going to be tough to win because you're not going to have the same amount of availability for a lot of these guys. But on the flip side of it is we were talking about character wins. And tomorrow's 100% an opportunity for them to come out and go, all right, well, we lost a heartbreaker last night. We put it in the rearview mirror, and let's just keep going forward because the baseball season is 162.
Yeah, I completely feel that, man. I really do. And, it's a tough spot, right? Like you mentioned a little bit earlier. I think having to go into, tomorrow, not having the same amount of bullpen arms, things like that, it definitely changes the perspective. But I agree. This is now a time where they have to turn around and essentially own up to it and take responsibility and get 2 out of 3 out of this thing. And I think there's a lot of people that are just pissed about tonight's game, right? We were talking to Joey a little bit before going live, and he's jumping in here in the comments as well. He says he's holding both Jed and Craig accountable for this, and they talked about how much collaboration goes into the roster and things like that. And he says at least this is probably Quas's last straw for now. And I think that is the difference between this year's team and last year's team from a depth perspective, Juice, when we're talking about the bullpen, right? Because yes, this current group at the top level has some guys with question marks. Jose Quas being one of them, Yency Almonte being another. But this year, you look at the Iowa Cubs, like it's a much more loaded team when you look
Yeah.
at bullpen arms. You know what I mean? So I think we're going to see a transaction potentially here in the next couple of days because you have the likes.
It would not surprise me if it's before tomorrow.
Yeah, because
You need an extra arm at this point.
right. Right, absolutely, absolutely. Because you got Brad Wick down there, you've got Hayden Wesneski who could come up and give you length. Obviously, he's a starter at AAA right now, so something that they need to certainly keep in mind. But you do have a guy like Keegan Thompson. You have some of these other guys too who have some of that big league experience, right? Richard Lovelady, Edwin Escobar, obviously Carl Edwards Jr., who has recently returned to the organization. And then you have some of these higher upside guys too, as well, that they can, potentially give a chance to. A guy like Riley Martin, I think a name that people really need to keep an eye on. Big lefty reliever who's really fired up the ranks. Cam Sanders, another guy. So there's a lot of names they can turn to. And I agree with you, Juice, because they are just burning through bodies at the end of it today, and they're going to need those arms for tomorrow to fill Justin Steele's slot. Ben Brown can probably give you 3, probably 4 good innings. Drew Smiley can probably give you another 2 to 2 2/3, maybe 3. You're still going to need a couple of other people in there, just to keep things up and keep things going from there and moving forward. Steven says we need to do live games. Steven, we are live after every show. If we did live games, we'd be burnt out by June. And that's the reason that we don't do live games. And there's also a lot that goes into, all the issues with MLB and things like that. So we stay away from doing the lives during games. We do the lives after games. That's just our style. So that's our product, man. I know you're not happy about it, but that's how we roll. We might do some live games this year. We'll see, but they will probably be fewer and further between. They will not be every single night. And that's just kind of the way we roll here at Cubs on Tap and always have rolled. But Juice, another thing in tonight's game, though, that I do want to talk about that, again, was good despite this brutal loss. Because, Juice, it's funny. There are some.
Wait, real quick. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to be. Steven, you can leave at this point. You can leave. It's clear you don't like what you're watching. Why are you sitting here?
Yeah, that's fair. But no, Juice, I mean, I think with some games we see it throughout the course of the year, right? Where, you're gonna have this falls apart, that falls apart, this falls apart, right? Throughout the course of a game. But this was really it felt like it was truly just one thing, right? At the end of the day, that made this team fall apart. The Jose Cuas comes in, it blows up, and then it kind of just spiraled from there. But the bats were still really good tonight. And I think that's something that we have to be really happy with so far this season. The bats have been alive. There has been no major inconsistencies with the bats so far over the course of the year. It's been very consistent offensive output. They've been walking at a high rate. They haven't been striking out at a high rate. Obviously, that's been highlighted over the course of these, first 9-10 games now, how well they're doing in those statistical categories. But it's really, really encouraging, at least, to see what the offensive output has been from this Cubs team. Because again, we've been sitting here and felt comfortable and things were feeling good on our end. They had an 8-0 lead going into the 6th inning, right? They had the lead. The bats did their job. 99 times out of 100, right? Usually you win these games. This is just one of those rare cases where the other team is able to come back and put something crazy together like they did. But really, really, Juice, you have to be pumped about what these bats were able to do, and especially in such a quick turnaround as well going to the West Coast.
Yeah, I mean, if they can score like this, you're going to have a chance to win every game. 8 runs is usually enough. And that's what's so frustrating about tonight. It's like your offense came to play, really kind of shut down the teams early in the sod. And you jumped out to a big lead. And I think Brandon B here, puts it now you let the Padres feel good. I mean, it sucks because you always hate when you have wins that you're already counting on in the middle of the game and you blow them because you feel like I said earlier on in the show, it's like you lost too. But yeah, man, I think I see opportunity where I think a lot of Cubs fans maybe see, the bleakness of, oh, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
There's opportunity for some of the guys you named at Iowa. There's some of the opportunity for, Jed and Carter to go out and maybe make a splash earlier than normal. If you look around the league, man, like teams trade earlier and earlier every year. It's not like you have to wait for the deadline to make a splash. If you truly feel like you can get a player at a good price, or just add, somebody from the scrap heap, somebody that, they've been so damn good at picking off of this, random group of misfits, like go ahead and look, see if there's a name out there that strikes your fancy now. Because, I mean, at this point, you got to, I gave him 3 weeks because I think that there's going to be a lot of different names that cycle into this thing before it's all said and done. And I think at the end of it, we may look back at the Jose Cuas. I'm going to call this the Jose Cuas game, by the way. This is it's like the reserve. It's like the reverse, like Jordan game, like the Jordan game. It's the Jose Cuas game. And yeah, man, I also wonder too, like you could get a little creative with, with the rain out happening too. And I don't know, maybe if you kind of ask Shota Imanaga for an inning tomorrow, that'd be kind of fun, just I'm just being creative here. Like, if you really got to get to the end of a ball game, I don't expect them to do that. But I mean, he only pitched 4, and I mean, it's if you wanted to give him a little bit more work, then I don't know. It's maybe just a 1 a.m. thought of me right now, but
I feel nor
there. But I don't know. I just don't want to worry too much because, again, it's not a division game. You lost like this. It's against the Padres. There's 2 more in this set, followed by another off day, which is nice. Now you can do your best to jump over and just get through, tomorrow and the next, and you get an off day. But it sucks because it's like it makes tomorrow that much more important, right? The bounce back, not let this turn into a losing streak. And that's when, you have a guy like Ben Brown going tomorrow. You just really don't know what you're going to get. And the old adage, momentum is the next day's starting pitcher. When you don't know what it is, we're not feeling a lot of momentum as Cubs fans. But I'm sure they're even more disgusted than we are sitting here on what happened tonight. And if I know that front office like I think I do, and, counsel as well to add to it, I think they're probably discussing some options, and that's healthy, and that's what happens over the course of 162.
Indeed, yeah, and that's something that they're going to have to keep in mind with tomorrow, right? And I think, this is also too, Juice, going into tomorrow's game. I think this is a perfect opportunity for a guy like Ben Brown to really show his stuff, right? And just especially if he's able to come out and give you that solid 4+. Like, this is when it's going to happen. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens because, again, I'm looking at this Iowa group and I'm trying to figure out, like, maybe who that roster move is for tomorrow, right? Especially now that you're down Julian Merriweather, especially that there's some of these other kind of, I guess, wrinkles now, right? You can throw into this thing. But it probably won't be Hayden Wesneski. He just threw on Saturday and threw length on Saturday. And, there's not a lot of other guys probably available right now. It probably would be a guy like Keegan Thompson who, can give you at least probably 2 innings of work. There are a couple other guys too that could certainly come in and give you at least multiple innings of work. So really, really intrigued to see what happens tomorrow. I do want to bring up one comment though, from Brandon on B a little bit earlier here. And this is, Juice, I want to get your take on this because the more and more and more I think about it, and I think we hit it. I think Joey actually hit it in our group, our Cubs on Tap group, text that we always go back and forth during games on. who is a guy in this bullpen that scares you from an opposing team standpoint, right? There is no Suarez who's coming out pumping 100 at the end of a game in this Cubs bullpen right now. Obviously, Neris was the big fish addition. Um, you know, they have guys like Adbert who is sometimes on and sometimes he's not. But you really look at the rest of this team, right? Merriweather maybe is a guy you could put up there, but now he's hurt, probably hurt for like 8 weeks, according to Taylor McGregor. So they really are kind of lacking now in this bullpen. A guy that you can that comes in and kind of how do I put it? He kind of just naturally garners respect from your opponent, right? He's going to be just that guy. They don't have that right now. They're kind of lacking that right now. And it's going to be really interesting to see if they can have somebody be that guy, because I don't think they have it right now, Juice.
No, but obviously I was going to name Merriweather. Adbert, when he's going well, is that guy. He had to me, he had some explanation for in Chicago. He hates when it's cold. And he kind of said that, begrudgingly, which is fine. But I mean, you're in San Diego now, no excuse. But he made one bad pitch. That's why, and to a really good hitter. There isn't a guy who scares you. But there's a lot of good quality arms out there. And I think too, like, clearly that's going to be a position of need once they go to the deadline and find that guy. Maybe it's now that Bieber's hurt and they don't have as much depth. Maybe it's a guy like Class A that you're bringing in here.
That'd be nice.
That would mean Alzolay can come in the 8th or in the 7th, and he's your hater, where it's like he can go to and get a clean inning. I agree with Darren here in the comments. He kind of he can't come in with runners on base. He's
needs that clean inning. Yeah.
And I think he would tell you otherwise. Like, he would try to tell you, like, oh, I could do it, but that's
sure, of course.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't worry about it right now because I don't think this Cubs team that in the bullpen wise that we look at right now is going to be the one that we're watching in September and, before that in August even. I think that there's going to be a lot of moves that are done by this, but yeah, there's not a name on there that you go, oh man, so-and-so's coming out of the pen to wipe this out. But bullpens are weird. And we discussed this in the offseason. It's year to year with these things. A good year does not mean that the next year a guy is going to be locked down for you. It's a part of a baseball team that I think is ever evolving in terms of valuation. Like, you need to constantly be bringing in arms. And if the Cubs didn't go out and bring in a decent amount of arms that we've talked about in AAA, I'd be worried, like if this was it. But I don't know, man. I'm not going to jump off the cliff because they blew an 8-run lead tonight with a guy like Jose Cuas, who I don't think is going to be on the roster tomorrow, let alone next week. Or, and it sucks because you would really like, he's got a weird slider, he's got a weird arm angle, and I get the enamoration behind why he's there, and I get why they like him. But at the end of the day, it's like, why fret about it? Because I don't think that a few of these names that we saw tonight, I don't think are going to be, getting high leverage situations down the stretch. I don't see it. And yeah, you would really like to win this one, but it's a good team, and all the things are going against you too. Getaway day, you leave late, you get, a couple bad breaks too. Like, I mean, if Hap's ball goes out, or if Dansby's ball's a foot, higher, it's a home run. That's another run you're talking about. Sure. There's a lot of breaks that didn't go their way today too, but we'll be just fine.
Yeah, well put. Again, a very disgruntling loss. And, Juice, I hate to say it, I almost feel like because it was a late game too, like Cubs fans
magnified.
are extra pissed. Yeah, because it was like I stayed up to watch this. So I think
Well,
that's where a lot of
yeah,
the anger is coming from too, and respectfully so. I get it. I totally understand it. We all like our rest. Um,
it's a
you
lot
know,
of
it,
West Coast like deja vu too, because I feel
yes,
like a lot of these games that they blow seem to be on this shitty West. I hate this West Coast trip.
I do
Like
too. It's
if
my
the
least
Cubs
favorite
could
trip of the
ever
year.
figure it out like that, they would win their division every year. But I feel like the Cubs leave like 6 games out here every
Mhm.
single season, where it's like you're lucky to go like 2-6.
Yeah, they go. Yeah, they go like 3-6 on the trip, and like very easily could have gone 8-1 or 9-0
They
on the
did
trip.
that
But
in Arizona last year
yeah,
at the West
hmm
Coast trip at the end of the year. It's
and
like,
then Colorado.
yeah, and that one too.
That one was rough.
And it's we'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine. A quick comment here from Joey a little bit earlier. That pitch to Bogarts, the batter before, was nasty too. Truly one bad pitch. Yeah, and that's baseball, baby. Right? It takes is one bad pitch. In addition, Jeremiah says we got to bring back Lock St. John as our lockdown closer. I don't even know where that dude is, to be brutally honest with you, but um,
I
hell of a
forgot
name
about
though.
him.
Hell of a name. I know, right? That's true Cubs legend shit right there. That we truly love. But Juice, I think like the Cubs need to do in this case, I think Cubs on Tap needs to do as well. I think we're going to put this game to bed. It's
We going straight Sox on tap here? Just flush it.
just flush. Yeah, this one we can do that with. We'll just flush this one and we'll call it a day
One
here.
last final tidbit for the
Yeah.
game, Ron, which I was managing along at home, and when they didn't get when Assad could not get through that inning and gave up the 2-run home run, he brought in Quas. Did it ever run through your mind that maybe you run Ben Brown now to get a win and figure out what you got to do tomorrow?
Maybe.
It's been interesting. And I think that like when Jamison Tyone comes back, he'll have that opportunity to maybe do things like that where he can
Mhm.
piggyback Brown or Wisniewski with, Assad, who seems like, he runs up pitch counts quickly,
Yeah.
or, like a Jordan Wicks. Like he can do things like that. I just think like we forget that they're missing 2 of their starters too, so they're piecing a lot of shit together right now.
Right. Absolutely. And again, too, I think something that you and I talked about on these mics last week, Juice, Council's still kind of figuring out this team too and what he has, especially from a bullpen standpoint and who can pitch where. And, we saw David Ross have to do the same thing effectively 3 times in the last year and a half, it felt like, because of all the turnover in the bullpen. So, figuring out a bullpen truly does take some time. And it's also, something that we got to keep an eye on. Jeremiah with a good point here too that I wanted to bring up a little bit earlier. He said also made Darvish struggles. Darvish only made it through 3 innings tonight. So again, they had to tax their bullpen a little bit going into tomorrow. Now, granted, they have a guy like Joe Musgrove on the mound who should give them 5 to 6 innings pretty consistently. Certainly one of their better pitchers out there in San Diego. But again, you never know.
We'll
Maybe
see.
the bats get to him again and you chase another starter and you tap into that bullpen, and maybe it's not the same result that they had going on tonight. Darren with a comment here. He says Carl Edwards better be on a plane as we speak. Shit, he might be. He might be heading to the Des Moines
Honestly,
airport
yeah.
right now.
I mean, he might have been woken up out of his bed right now.
He might have been. He might have been. He absolutely might have been, but we'll have to wait and see. Also, because Joey asked so kindly from me, he wanted to make sure that everybody at home knew how pissed off he is at Jose Cuas.
Yeah.
I believe the comment he used in here somewhere a little bit earlier was the sidewinding eclipse watcher. Was the term, and very appropriate given the solar eclipse today that passed over the United States. So,
Which super mid.
Very overrated. It gets dark for a little bit. Honestly, you know what I think is ultimately there's 2 things that come from it that make it cool that you can watch after the fact. One of them, I think the view from an airplane is trippy, and that one's kind of cool. And then the professional photographers when those photos come out, because because it incorporates in a lot of the detail and they have like an actually nice camera that can take a good picture.
That's fair.
Those are cool to see. But like the people that take a picture with their phone, like come
NASA
on.
does one too, right? Where they do like the
I think so.
Time eclipse, the eclipse of the eclipse.
Yeah,
while they're
I
in,
think
while they're in a Mitsubishi Eclipse.
with a pack of Eclipse
Oh,
in the cup holder.
hashtag just flush it.
This is 100% Cubs on tap after dark. This is what
Yes,
happens.
I don't
We're
usually
both.
do these either.
No, you don't. I know
Because
these
it's
are.
East Coast, but
Yeah, these always trip you out, man. Jeremiah with one fun off the wall comment here for Cubs on tap after dark. He says, "Remember Carl Edwards, the baseball player, not the NASCAR driver." Yeah, Carl's been retired for a few years now from NASCAR.
boogity
Um,
boogity boogity.
let's go racing, baby. Joey, make America sun again. Okay, Joey. Joey's right there with us.
I said in the chat, because we have a Cubs on tap chat that we go back and forth.
Yes, we do.
The Midwest trading this, hour, 2 hours worth of sun for this eclipse picture stuff is worse
Terrible.
than Brock for Bergoglio.
Yeah,
Bad.
brutal trade.
We already
Brutal
don't
trade.
get a lot of sun, and then now everyone's excited for no sun. I'm like the first nice, 75-degree day today.
Yeah, I know.
Out of
It was
control.
beautiful. It was beautiful outside too. It was a shame that it actually did cool off because of the eclipse. So that's what it is. Just like the eclipse that won't come back again for a while. Us talking about this
Neither will Jose
brutal
Claus.
loss. Yeah, he probably will not be back again for a while.
Wait,
This
hold
is a
on.
good
One more
question.
after
I
dark
saw this
question.
come through too. Yeah. What would happen if that group chat got leaked? It's not
Jail.
as bad as I think people think it
jail.
is.
Jail.
No, it's not that bad.
Did you see what Joey put in here earlier?
Oh, no, I didn't. Maybe that's why.
During the show?
Maybe my ignorance is the better part. Oh, that one I did see.
Yes.
Yes.
Jail.
Yeah, maybe jail. Yeah.
There's some funny stuff. I'll say this: if you're following, if you are a very close watcher of Cubs on Tap,
mhm.
you can imagine what we say to each other during that chat.
1,000%. 1,000%.
And it's not, honestly, too, sometimes it gets super nerdy.
1,000. A million percent.
Like Joey put 3 or 4 graphs in there earlier today, and I looked at it and I went, wow. I thought we were joking about the eclipse and all the funny eclipse photos that came out on Twitter today. But then Joey's putting up graphs next to, let's just say that some people were, photoshopping things on the eclipse that were kind of funny.
Yeah.
People like me and Ron, pretty much.
Yeah, more or less. And then Joey hits us with Christopher Morel has a good swing rate of 80% and a bad swing rate of 20%. Yeah, how do I put this, Juice? The Cubs on Tap group chat is ADHD personified amongst 5 people.
Yes. Also,
it's all over the place.
Idea, we should do an invite only for loyal Cubs on Tap listeners that
a separate chat
and we could do the group chat live where we're
live,
the no holds bar back and forth, but it's invite only. It does not come out in podcast form, and everybody has to sign a waiver that they can't record it.
That would be something. Maybe we'll do something like that to raise money for charity. That'd be kind of fun.
That idea.
Be kind of fun.
I like that idea. We need to get more involved in charity, especially after reading what the group chat's in there. And Jeremiah, more office memes, probably from me. If anybody, I usually am the one with those.
It's definitely you, and probably nobody else, to be brutally honest with you. Joey also says, doesn't matter when you join the chat, you will get in where you fit in.
Yeah,
100%. It's pretty true. Jeremiah and NDA, Joey, NDA caught, Jeremiah agree. Yeah,
and sometimes I feel bad for Tyler because Tyler is sitting at the firehouse, watching us be idiots.
1,000%.
And I don't know. And then Nick comes in every once in a while with a zinger too.
He'll chime in.
It's always like Nick's like that guy in the corner who says 5 words, but they're the 5 funniest words of the night.
1,000%. 1,000%. They're usually well timed and just out of absolute nowhere.
Yep.
100%. That is the Cubs on Tech group chat. That's when you know this game was rough.
So there you go, Jeremiah. We've described to you the Cubs group chat, and
there you go.
If you pay $10 on Patreon, we will release those to you.
Oh, electric stuff. Juice, before we wrap this thing up, tomorrow's game is a 9:05 Central Daylight Time start. This is a late one for you, buddy. 10:05 on the Eastern Time Zone at Petco Park in San Diego, California. Cubbies walking into this one with a TBD as the starter. We'll learn the probable pitcher probably at some point between, my guess is between noon and 2 Central Time. That's usually when a lot of that news breaks. From a baseball standpoint, especially when it's a later game. Musgrove, again, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, will be on the bump today or tomorrow. I guess technically today, as we're recording this here. He's 1-1, 6.28 ERA, so he's been banged and beat up a little bit. So the Cubs can get after. This one will be on TBS if you're out of market in a national audience, but it will be in the San Diego Padres for the Padres because now the MLB owns their broadcasting rights, and for the Cubs, obviously this one's on Marquee Sports Network as usual. Juice, what do you got for me for tomorrow's game? What do the Cubs need to do to get it done?
Bounce back, just like we said, flush it, go to the next one. And just get another lead. Hey, go in tomorrow early and strike early again. Because I thought I saw that they had won 234 consecutive games or something like that when they had that type of lead. It was right when we were jumping out of here, so I didn't fully, get the gist of what the full stat was. But they win a lot of games when you get early leads like that. Normally, that bodes well for the win column. Sometimes you get a weird one like tonight. But how about you go out there and score 8 again and make up for yesterday? And then we can forget about it. Because this one's only going to linger if they lose tomorrow and if they lose the next day. And then you go into the off day and you're like, oh, now you got 3 against the Mariners and 3 against, the Diamondbacks who win the World Series. So, yeah, just go out there and score 8 runs again tomorrow and piece it together how you can. Hopefully the bullpen, just takes a breather and just says, all right, time for us to go out and just 1 inning at a time, 1 out at a time. Just keep going. Keep making quality pitches. That's all you got to do.
I like it. Incredibly well said, sir. I have nothing else to add on to that. Yeah, just bounce back. Do again what you did tonight. Chances are the way the cards fall, if you score 8 again, that's probably going to result in a W, not in a brutal kind of disheartening loss like tonight. Juice, buddy, any quick final thoughts for us before we wrap this thing up?
I'm excited for our very first Sunday Fun Day episode. That'll come pretty soon because I think there's a lot of good. So when we do Sunday episodes, just for all the listeners, we're going to do all-encompassing baseball. We're going to talk a lot of MLB. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Cubs, but it'll be more fun, free-flowing, opposed to post-game recap. And there's just so much going on with the injuries and the MLBPA, and there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. So the homework for the listeners is to go out and learn how all these young kids are gaining velocity, because that's a problem.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Obviously, we will talk about the weekend series, which in this case coming up will be the Seattle Mariners. No word yet if we'll have a Friday night show. It will be a late one if there is one. I know the listeners got to enjoy the sounds of Joey and Nick on the old Friday night late shows when those came up. May or may not have those this year. We'll know more later in the week. Obviously, the off day Thursday, so there won't be a show from us Thursday either. But we will be back with you guys for these next 2 games against the Padres. And yeah, we'll get into that Seattle Mariners series, but then we will get into some other things and talk all things baseball. And because, again, it's Sunday Fun Day, be a longer show, probably be a little over an hour. That one will push a little longer. That one will be more free form. That's where we can go down those rabbit holes and have a little bit more fun. And it's not so much game-centric as these weekly are. Juice, before we get out of here, buddy, want to remind everybody Cubs on Tap, 1 or 2 official podcasts for the Chicago Cubs here at the On Tap Sports Network. Check out our friends over at the Dingers podcast. They are at Dinger Cubs on the socials. They were live tonight as well, so be sure to check out their latest episode, either right here on the On Tap Sports Net YouTube page or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. You can be sure to follow us as well at Cubbies on Tap on the socials. I am at Luce on Tap. Obviously, Juice is at Juice on Tap. Be sure to follow the other boys as well. At Joey Knows Nothing, at Teddy Freddy 270, at Nick _ on tap. Give the boys some love. Also at Silent Bob _2. Bobby Foster is killing it over on the writing side. It's been a good one, and he's been awesome. So be sure to follow him as well. You know the drill. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks. We got it all. And yes, Cubs fans, send your Sox friends over to our Sox friends over at Sox on Tap. Before we get out here, Joey says, "Night, boys. Hope Steven's night gets better. I hope it does too. He was really upset with tonight's loss, and resulted in some good back and forth to open the show. If you joined us a little bit late, but you'll be able to
do live games, Rob.
Yeah, apparently we got to do live games now. That's the rumor here, but we'll wait and see what happens with that one. But ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on the socials, the On Tap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Darren says, we blow another 8-run lead. You guys better come on regardless. I can't afford therapy. Darren, we will be back with you because we go on after the shows, not during the shows, or during the games, I should say, because that's our jam. That's what we do over here at Cubs on Tap. Juice, always a pleasure, buddy. It's a late one. It's good to be on with you here for this West Coast game. Cubs lose in tragic fashion, 9-8, but they are back tomorrow in San Diego for another one. TBD is on the mound for the Cubs as of tonight. It will be Musgrove for the Dads. Juice, what do you say, buddy? We get out here the only way to know how at Cubs on Tap?
Let's go, Cubbies.
And fuck the Cardinals.